been little while since you and I have been on the show together.
The hiatus more than anything was because of the travel. When we go to conferences, it just makes it difficult, right? For us to connect and do the episodes. But of course, the reason why we're at conferences was besides the obvious, which is selling our services for Global Training Center, but also doing the podcast. And we're lucky enough to get content at those conferences that we can publish. So, I'm glad to finally be here in the studio and be able to record. It'll be a while before I have to go to another conference. So, next one I think I'll see our next guest, which is Bonnie. I think that's the next one. I'll see her in Canada and for ICPA Canada.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah. As you heard, folks, we've got Bonnie. It's Kersch, how you say that, right?
That's right.
All right. And speaking of which, how's your wife doing? She was having some trouble there, and things going better for her?
Yeah, she's doing okay. A lot of folks know that she was diagnosed with breast cancer, so she's on that journey. But yeah, doing okay so far. So thanks for asking.
Well, good. And your kids are growing up like crazy, so it's just phenomenal kids.
Yeah,
You've done
Andy,
a great
today
job
is my
raising those kids.
oldest. Today is Alexis's 21st birthday. So it's a
My gosh.
milestone. It's a milestone. I'm hoping I won't get a call later to come pick her up somewhere because she's, 21 today and has had a little too much partying. But if I do get that call, I'll be there.
That was
100%.
one of the things I always told my daughter and her friends. I said, if you ever get in a jam, call me. I would rather
That's
you
right.
call me and I'd come get you
100%.
and
Every
all
parent
that.
says that. I know.
Absolutely. I'll
I
make
say,
sure
I
they get
don't
home
care.
safe. Yeah.
Yeah, I always tell them, I don't care how bad the situation is. Literally, nothing's going to happen to you
Yeah.
as bad as it would if you don't call us.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, but they've got a good head on their shoulders. So it'll be all right.
Yeah.
All good.
Yeah.
But an exciting
you
day
really do.
nonetheless.
Your kids are great. So
They are.
kudos
Thank
to you. We're going to be talking today, folks, about CAPE. And it's not like putting a cape on your shoulders and flying around. This is going to be regarding, if everybody remembers, the additional duties that have been assessed over the last, year now? 6 months,
Yeah,
year,
they were in
whatever.
place for about a year.
Yeah. And so there are refunds that are available. So there's money on the table. And instead of going through and announcing, well, here's the refunds and all, we're going to do kind of a how-to. And there's nobody better than I love with Bonnie. Bonnie, you're always great to talk with. I mean, Lalo and I just love you to death.
Same. Feelings mutual.
So a few things that I've been reading on LinkedIn, because I have been seeing a bunch of updates as if anybody is following or even on LinkedIn and you have that algorithm that you're in trade and all that, it'd be weird if you're not getting these. But I did see something yesterday from one of the attorneys that likes to post on there. And she says 1.74 million entries have been liquidated and are in the refund process. That's a lot.
You know what? That does sound like a lot, but that's only a percentage of those that are eligible
That's
for
a
refunds.
small, exactly.
So people got to get out there. So I'm glad you're doing this podcast today to help folks. And maybe there's some smaller business owners listening too, right? Who don't have the resources to go out and hire someone to figure out how to do this. So really good idea to have this podcast. And thank you for having me on it.
Yeah, well, because folks, in case of the obvious is, Bonnie and I, our businesses work together in the background. She does training for us, she do consulting for us, whatnot. And because of that, I always hear her saying like, I did this, I did that. And last week when we had a class on classification for chemicals, she said, I've been filing millions of dollars in refunds for my customers. I was like, oh, that sounds like an episode. We've reported on the podcast about what it is, how it works, blah, 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 but not hands-on. I want to talk to that person who's in the front lines, in the trenches, doing this. And so I'm so happy, like Andy said, that you're here to educate our audience on that.
Hey, Lalo, let me start something here to kind of set the scene or stage for this situation. Is as an importer, all of a sudden I'm receiving some emails from my broker that says, hey, Cape, it appears that you have paid Cape duties on some of your past entries. There's refunds available, and let us know how we can help. And I'm like, okay, what do I do? So there's the stage. I'm the importer in here, and I may know a lot of stuff about how, entries processing and all that, but this particular situation seems to be a little bit different. What do I need to do to empower my broker to say, yeah, all right, go ahead and file it? But I understand there's a couple of key essentials that you've got to have as an importer.
Yeah. So the first thing, IEEPA tariffs were in place. The fentanyl tariffs, you might remember there were from China, Mexico, and Canada. That was sort of the first round of those tariffs imposed under IEEPA, which stands for International Economic Emergency Powers Act. I think I got that right. So those went into place in February of 2025. Then you had, do you remember when President Trump on Liberation Day, do you remember that? He held up those
Yes.
poster boards and it had all those countries on it and the duty rates. Those were what people refer to as the reciprocal tariffs. Those went into effect in April of that same year of 2025. So you've had IEEPA tariffs in place for about a year because they were overturned in February by the Supreme Court, and that's when they phased out. So for about a year, you had people paying all of these IEEPA tariffs, and we just call them that because IEEPA is the framework under which the tariffs were imposed. But then the Supreme Court came and said, hey, you can't use that framework of IEEPA to impose tariffs. So they were ruled as unconstitutional. So just a little bit of background. So all of those tariffs that were imposed under IEEPA, you can now qualify for a refund on those. So the first thing you need to do is make sure you have an ACE account. If you don't already have an ACE account, Google CBP ACE account, and you'll find a link there where you can go apply for one. Now, if your 5106 form has not been updated or hasn't been filed, you'll need to update that first. But it'll tell you if you try to apply for an ACE account and there's some sort of error, know that that's probably the issue, is that you need to update your 5106 form. So you can do that. There's all kinds of instructions on the CBP ACE website about all of this, but I just want to kind of to lay that out first. Yeah, Andy, did you have?
All right. And well, now I don't want to oversimplify this, but if you hear the 5106 form, that's similar to like a W 2 form with your payroll taxes. A 5106 is the same kind of thing as you're registering your company with the EIN number with customs in their system. So it's got to be up to date.
Sure.
And it's important that you have that. So that's if
Exactly.
you don't know what that is, that's usually your broker will take care of it for you.
Yeah, but certainly you don't have to use your broker, right? For that. You could do it yourself. It's either way. So that's the first step, is make sure you have an ACE account. Once you have an ACE account, or if you already have one, the second step is when you click on your importer account, you're going to see a page pull up. And on the right side of that page, you're going to see ACH refund authorization. You want to click on that and make sure that you have attached your company's banking information to that form right there. So ACH refund authorization, because that's the bank account where your IEPA refunds are going to go to. So if there's no bank account there, you're not going to get an IEPA refund, right? So you can apply for it all day long, but they have to have somewhere to send the money. Yeah, Lalo.
Quick note, if anyone is looking for an ACH account, I'll be more than glad to provide mine, by the way.
You're so kind. So kind. Lalo's happy to take your refund for you.
You'll be glad to facilitate that transaction.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So kind. So, all right. So step one, make sure you have an ACE account. Step two, make sure you've set up your ACH refund authorization. And this is super easy. This is not something that you need a broker for, but certainly your broker can help you. I'm not trying to say that, you don't need a broker for anything, but this step is very easy. It's as simple as typing in your bank account, information, your routing number and your account number. That's really all you have to do, and then submit, right? So once that's set up, great. You're well beyond a lot of importers who don't have those two steps accomplished. So that's great. So set up that ACE account, set up your ACH refund authorization. The next thing I would do is run what's called an entry summary report. It's an ES003 report. That's the number of the report. So you're going to, right above where you just set up your ACH refund authorization, you're going to click where it says reports. It's going to open in a second window. So if you have a pop-up blocker, you need to disable that, and it'll tell you if you do have a pop-up. When the report screen opens up, you're going to click on folders. Then there's a whole lot to click on, which would bore you to tears if I told you all the details right now. But what you're ultimately looking for, you're going to click on ACE, you're going to click on importer, you're going to click on entry summary, and then you're going to click on entry summary again, and you're going to get to the ES as in Sam 003 report. You want to click on that, and then you want to run that report from January 1st, 2025 all the way to today. You can leave that end date open, right? Because you just want to run it to the current day, but you want that report to start on January 1st, 2025. Now, if you're a medium to small business, that's perfectly fine. It'll work just fine. If you're an extremely large importer, think your Amazons of the world, like very, very large importer, you may not be able to run a report for the past year and a half, right? You may need to break it into months. It just depends
Break
on
it
how
up.
many entries you have. You don't want to break the system. But for most importers, you should be able to run the report back to January 1st, 2025. All right. Once you've run that report, if you have trouble running that report, reach out to me, reach out to Lalo, reach out to somebody. They'll get you in touch with me, and I can help you run that report. Once you run that report, you want to filter out all of the HTS codes that start with 99. So here's the thing. Every item in the world has a harmonized tariff code assigned to it, right? And that determines your base duty rate. In a normal world, let's call it 5, 10 years ago, that would be your duty rate, right? That would be all you had to pay. However, in today's environment, we now have Section 301, Section 232, Section 122, all of these other tariffs in addition to that duty rate. All of those additional tariffs are a Chapter 99 HTS code. So what happens when your broker submits your information to customs, they are going to put your regular duty rate that's in like chapters 1 through 96, 97. Then they're going to put your Chapter 99 HS code. Those Chapter 99 HS codes tell us how much additional duty you pay. So if you filter for all of those 99, those codes that start with 99, some of those are going to be IEEPA tariffs, some of those are going to be 232, some are going to be 301, etc. I can help you with that. Your broker can help you with that. If you're savvy, you can look it up yourself. But what you need to identify is the IEEPA tariffs. They're typically the ones that start in like 9903, 01, 01, and go to about 9903. I don't have it in front of me, but they go to, I think off the top of my head, 0130 something. But what you want to do is identify which of those codes were the IEEPA tariffs, and that's going to be how much you paid and how much you can get back. So any of those IEEPA tariffs you can get back. However, in this first CAPE filing, you do feel, you made a comment earlier, Andy, that it's not like you're walking around with a cape on, but I don't know, after filing some of these, you do kind of feel like a superhero, you're filing these, you're getting all this money back. You can only file in this first filing certain things. So you can't file, so entries typically liquidate after 314 days. Liquidate just means the entry is closed. There are no more changes that can be made to it by anyone, really. And that typically happens in 314 days after your entry date for a formal entry. So that would be entry type 01 on that report we just talked about. For the informal entries, those liquidate very quickly, like within 10, 15, 20 days, very quickly. So you can only file in this first CAPE portal release entries that are no more than 80 days past the liquidation date. So you need to make sure that you're excluding any of those. Now, I did misspeak a little bit earlier. I said that liquidation means that the entry is closed. You can file protests after liquidation typically. But in this case, another thing to keep in mind, when you're filing your CAPE refund, my understanding, and I think the general consensus in the general understanding is that after you file that, those entries will be essentially closed. So you won't be able to file any post summary corrections or protests on any entries for which you file CAPE refunds. So I have some clients who are still going back and filing some changes on their entries with Section 232 tariffs on them because they maybe paid the Section 232 tariffs on the full amount of the goods, the full value, when they really should have only paid on the value of the steel or the value of the aluminum. So they're still going back and making changes to those entries. So for right now, they're choosing not to ask for a IEEPA refund on those entries so that they can make the changes they need to make. And then once they're done with those, they'll go ask for a refund. So that's
All right,
definitely a flag I want to put up.
all right, so let's review this real quick. So
Yep.
first off, you've got to have an ACE portal account.
Yep.
That gives you access to your, as an importer, you see what the entries were filed on your behalf, or if you file them yourself. But you got to have an ACE portal account, set up your ACH bank account
With Lalo's account.
to receive.
Yes.
Right. And then third, run that ES is an entry summary at 003 report. So the ES 003
Mhm.
report. Once you get that, that gives you, as far as, let's just say that you've got a lot of things going on. If you can do those three things, you could take that report, which you could then download, into Excel and whatnot, and give it to your broker, or
You could.
to somebody that's more proficient in this particular area, and they could filter through and say, okay, you can file a refund on a lot of these, but right now these are the only ones that qualify, and be able to filter through that. If you don't have time if you're not proficient in what you can file a refund on or not, and quite frankly, you're getting into an area here. It's
That
like,
gets into the
well,
weeds.
yeah, you can only file a refund on those that were painted blue on a Tuesday, and that's kind of what we're getting at here. So
Yes.
me, I'm dumb as a box of rocks. So it's like, okay,
No.
if I can get the data and give it to somebody that knows what the heck they're doing, then it's like lickety split.
Smooth
All that
sailing.
works pretty smooth, and it's done electronically. So, all right, so let's say that now you're at that point. You've got the report, you look at it, you identify the specifics, and let's just say there's just three right now that you can do. I want to file a refund on 3 entries just to start. I mean, even if you just do one, it breaks that logger jam. It's like, okay, now I know all the way through it, and you get it done. What do I do? So what do I just flag it and say, give me a refund on this, and that's it?
Super easy. Yeah.
Funny, before that, you let me add one other thing. You added this no more than 80 days after liquidation. So technically it could have gone to 315 days, and then so 80 days after that,
Yes.
as long as it's okay, so 400 and whatever, or 395 days.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
80 days past liquidation.
okay, I just want to make sure people don't think that once it's liquidated, that's it, you're toast.
No.
No,
Yeah.
it's 80
You
days
have
after the liquidation, whether it was
Exactly.
315 or 10 days. I mean, but as long as it's not past those 80 days. Perfect. Okay,
Right.
great.
And again, it's not that you've lost the refund opportunity for those that are past 80 days. It's just that in this first release of
Right.
CAPE, that doesn't have the functionality for that. So our understanding from CBP is that the next release of CAPE, or maybe the third release, whatever, a subsequent release of CAPE, you will be able to submit those entries that are beyond 80 days. You just can't submit
Right.
them right now. So you're still going to get your refund. I just want people to know that you're still going to get your refund, just not right now on those.
Yeah, and I understood like that
Excuse me.
after reading everything that I see and everything, it sounds like obviously they're going after the low hanging fruit. What's easier to do right now?
Yes.
Because there's a lot of things that people are like, like if it's ADD, CVD, forget it,
Yeah.
like, and like you
There's
said
lots
about
of
it,
things.
there's lots of things that are like if it's under reconciliation and forget
Mhm.
it, just wait your turn or whatever, right? So
Exactly.
right, okay,
Yeah, exactly. So there's a really good FAQ website on this. So if you just Google like IEEPA, IEEPA, and then FAQ, there's a really good site that CBP has put out that answers a lot of questions. So certainly I'm not going to I'm not going to be able to discuss everything in this one podcast, right? But definitely urge everyone to go take a look at that website. And it'll tell you all of like you said, Lalo, all of the caveats, like no reconciliation, no ADD, CBD, right? So don't expect that I'm addressing absolutely all of them in this.
Well,
and it'll be
and
under show notes that link, by the
Perfect.
way.
Great.
yeah. Well,
So,
I was
Andy,
just
back
going to
to your
say,
question. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
yeah. Well, I was just going to say, before we go too much further in this, I think it warrants stopping and complimenting CBP's programming and IT department. You know that they have been going crazy with updating the systems with the duties that have been going in on short notice and then going back down or up and down and everything else. And they have also then been able to put in an electronic means of getting a refund on these. I'm sure those folks have been working hard on all that. To Customs and Border Protection is specifically the IT department. Hey, kudos to you. You know, everybody
Absolutely.
beats you up on everything else. Is like to this folks. Seriously, send a note at some time, or even say to your local customs folks and say, hey, send a note to them. I'm sure
Yeah.
everybody is just pleased as punch on what they've been able to accomplish here.
Yeah, they've done a really good job, to your point, of keeping up with all of the tariff changes, right? Sometimes overnight, we see new tariffs and so on. So, agree with you. They've done a great job. All right. So, back to the process. So, let's say you've gotten your ES003 report. You've either analyzed it yourself if you're savvy enough to do so. If not, no shame in that at all. It's a whole lot to try to understand. Reach out to either your broker, a consultant like myself, somebody more knowledgeable about this specific process than you are. And we can analyze it for you and let you know how much your refund's going to be and how much you can get in this first filing. Because again, and to Lalo's point, there are some entries that you can't file this first time. So we could tell you how much your refund would be for this first filing and how much you'll need to file in subsequent filings. And then all you have to upload on the CAPE portal is the entry numbers. That's it. That's all they ask for. If you go back so we're picturing your ACE account again, right? You're back there at that home screen before you clicked on reports. So you're right there, right next to where you set up your ACH refund authorization. To the right side of that, you'll see CAPE, like a superhero wears, CAPE. So you're going to click on that. You're going to download the CSV file, which is just a type of Excel file, nothing fancy there. You're going to copy and paste from your ES003 report any of the entry numbers on which you paid IEEPA tariffs that you're ready to ask for a refund for. So you just copy and paste, delete your duplicates, right? So don't have duplicates in there. Copy and paste onto that CSV file, save the CSV file, and then all you do is upload it. It's really that simple. And then right away, within seconds, really, the CAPE portal will tell you whether your submission has been accepted or if there are any errors. So it may tell you, you uploaded 100 entry numbers and 98 of them were accepted, 2 of them were rejected. And if they were rejected, it'll tell you why. Either, it's 80 days past, it's more than 80 days past liquidation, or, you haven't paid for the duties yet. It's not time yet. There are lots of reasons why it might have been rejected, but you should see very, very few rejections and most of your entries will be accepted. Now, that doesn't mean that they accepted it and all of a sudden you're going to get paid. You're going to see the money tomorrow, right? That's not exactly how it works. It's 60 to 90 days is what Customs is telling us right now as far as to get your refunds. And they have mentioned on that FAQ page that Lalo's going to link in the show notes, they have mentioned a couple of reports within that reporting functionality in ACE that you can use to follow your refunds. So they are going to be posted, though. Your refunds will go to that ACH account that you link. So if your company has multiple bank accounts, you want to make sure that you're putting the right one there to look for your refund. So there are a couple of reports again in ACE that you can use to follow the status of that refund. So far, I've heard that nobody's seen any updates to those reports. But frankly, Andy, you said, or was it Lalo? You said how many entries have been filed so far? Over a
One
million?
1.725.
Well, yeah, that's a lot, right? So give them
Yes.
some grace, give them some time to make it through all of this. I suspect what will happen is you'll see the money in your account and then you'll see the report update, or it'll happen like within a day of each other. What I don't think is going to happen is you're going to see like periodic updates over the next 60 to 90 days.
All right. And one of the things, though, is if you were you know, a good sized company that has, different departments, more specifically your finance or accounting department, communicate with them, tell them what you're doing and what's going on because, all of a sudden money shows up in an account and you don't want it to just go into your own general fund, if you will. And you've got to look for it, and so work with them and tell them what you're doing there, so that you can collaborate on your
Absolutely.
internal bureaucracy. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And let them know what's coming, what the amount you expect. Because a lot of times if you're in global trade, you probably don't have access to the company bank account, right? So you want to make sure that you're kind of reconciling, talking to your finance folks and saying, I'm expecting, 30,000 come through. And then when money does come through, you can make sure that that's actually the amount you received, just to kind of to pair things up, right? So good
And
communication is
taking
key
that
for sure.
one more step further too, if you're a big a global company,
Hmm.
multinational company, you're going to have, probably, a heavy filer. You're going to have a lot of money coming through. Again, not only with your finance, reach out to your audit department, because that's also going to go in there. And so, again, you collaborate there. And then the other thing is, a lot of folks may have, especially now, a situation where the compliance folks are at the table, as we would say, with the C suite and with maybe a transportation council of some kind or something like that. Give an update, give a report, show what's going on, and provide some of that, because everybody, you scare the heck out of them. It's like, well, you got to make sure that it's, you these new parts and everything are classified right and all that is vetted. Well, here's the other side that may be a bit more positive for you, and everybody likes to enjoy that.
100%. And Andy, I am always preaching about keep track of your wins and put them on your performance review, right? Like keep track
There you
of
go.
if you're issuing a USMCA, a Kuzma certificate, and you saved, and in doing so, you saved the company $2,000 every time that item ships. Put that on your performance review, right? Because it's really hard as global trade compliance professionals to prove our worth. A lot of people think of compliance professionals as like a cost mitigation center. It's not revenue generating department at the company, but I would argue that it is and it can be. And this is a really easy, really good way to show your worth as global trade, right? I mean, if you're getting back, even if it's $50,000 you're getting back, that could be, I don't know, half of your salary for the year, right? Who knows? That could be your salary for the year. So definitely like write that down, keep track of all of your wins so that you can, when it comes time for your performance review, you've got that there to show.
Bonnie, that is such a great point. I can tell you, to that issue, I know that there have been people that have used foreign trade zones,
Hmm.
and their goods have come in, and they actually also clear the goods, some of them into the commerce, and then turn around and ship them back out and do a duty refund. And with that, they keep up with, look at how much money I brought back in. Well, you paid
Yeah.
it on the front end and all that, but the duty refunds on that running through a warehouse or foreign sales. The second thing is the use of a carnet. I know of a company that a compliance person came in. They were not using an ATA carnet. They were shipping very large equipment around the world, and it saved $600,000 that they had in
Hmm.
the past paid, and duties and taxes and everything else, and then turned right around and had to do a refund if that country allowed it. This
Right.
avoided that, so it was another win. And here, you've got the Cape and all that. So, folks, what Bonnie's saying is right on the money. You have something here to say, hey, look, it's cost avoidance, improving your cash flow, things of that
100%.
nature is how that's what the finance people are going to, and that gets the attention. If you want to say, well, I just didn't get a refund, it's like, hey, I helped our cash flow, I
Right.
improved our bottom line, whatever the case is.
Absolutely. Keep track of your wins. That's all I've got to say, right? Keep track of them because, it's real easy to get to the end of the year and say, well, I don't really remember what I did in March, right? No, keep a running, Word document, Excel, whatever, just little notes for yourself of your wins throughout the year so that when it comes time for that performance review, you've got it all handy, you've got it ready to go, you've got the numbers, you've got the stats, right? I'm a strong, strong proponent of that. So, one thing I want to mention before we wrap up is There are some, and I saw, I know you had Pete on talking about this, Pete Mento, you had him on, relatively recently. And I saw him make a really good point on LinkedIn. He and I are friends, we go way back. And I wanted to kind of mention this. There are some brokers and some other companies, I'm not trying to pick on brokers, who are charging people a percentage of their refund claim in order to help them file the claim. I think that this is wrong. I think this is inappropriate, and I'll tell you why. I have filed many of these claims at this point. I've lost track of how many. Some of them people were getting back, less than $100,000. I had one claim where they were getting back 232 million, right? So I've done claims of all sizes, multiple really large claims. Doesn't matter the size of the claim. This takes me maybe 2 hours total from, making sure you're set up with ACE, getting your ACH refund set up, running the report, analyzing it, and filing the claim. All of that in 2 hours or less. And some companies are charging a percentage of the claim. Can you imagine if I had charged my client like 5% of their $232 million claim for 2 hours worth of work? To me, that stinks. That's not appropriate. So I just want to, this is a cautionary tale for some importers who maybe haven't filed their refund claims yet. Don't, just be careful. Be careful. There are some also companies out there trying to, buy your refund claims for
I was
pennies
gonna
on the
say there's
dollar. All I have to say is be careful. This
yeah, I
this
was gonna
literally
say
only
that
takes a couple hours worth of work. So keep that
I've
in mind.
definitely seen those, Bonnie. I've definitely
Yeah.
seen those companies that are investment firms or whatever, who have gone out and are trying to buy refunds, like you said, pennies on the dollar.
hmm Yeah. So it's just a cautionary tale, right? I just want to, let everyone know again, this only takes maybe 2 hours. So I just want to level set that with everyone. I'm all about honesty in this business, right? So, and most
Yeah.
people are,
Well,
right? There's a
and the
lot of
thing
really, really good
is
people.
well, in filing for the CAPE refunds, it's not as
hmm
complex as some people may make it to try and get you to say, well, here, just handle it or whatever at a high price. So if you educate yourself, if you've got enough entries in the refund process and keeping up with all of that, it would be worth it to train somebody in your company to become proficient with this or have some key person that's not going to charge you an arm and a leg and hey, just handle it. Boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom. So,
Yeah. Yeah. This shouldn't cost you thousands of dollars to file a refund, is all I'm throwing out there.
all right, we need to wrap up. So again, let's just one more time. It's like you've got to have an ACE portal account. You've got
Yep.
to have your ACH bank account set up for where the refunds will go. You
hmm
run your 003, that's the entry summary report out of customs. You take a look at that, you analyze that, or have somebody help you with that to identify the specific entry numbers that you can file refunds on now. And then you go in and you hit the CAPE site, if you will, through the ACE
hmm
portal, download the specific, I guess,
CSV file.
CSV file, excuse me. You populate that with the entry numbers, copy and paste,
hmm
if you will, whatever. And you upload that, I assume, back to the CAPE
Yep.
file, right?
Yep.
And at that point, it's going to tell you if it's accepted or not. And, if it's accepted, great. If it's not, obviously you will deal. Let me ask this. Let's say that you put 100 entry numbers in there and it comes back and says 98 of them fine, 2 of them have errors. It's not going to reject the whole 100, is it?
Right.
It'll accept
No,
those
no.
98.
It's gonna accept the 98 and reject the 2, and the 2
Okay.
you
So,
may be able to file in a subsequent filing of CAPE. They're not ready for those entries
right.
at this time.
Okay. And then once you get the acceptance back, you probably should put something in your own time management calendar type thing that say, here's a reminder, take a look at this, as well as you need to be tracking when you can file refunds on the other items once they've liquidated or the timelines on those things, right?
Yep, that's right, and we don't have a release date, at least I haven't seen one for the next CAPE release. They're probably trying to, figure out how this one went first before they build the next one, but certainly, I'm sure this, podcast, you guys will keep everyone updated on that as well, so
Well,
stay
and all
tuned.
those entries haven't liquidated. I mean, the ones
Right.
from January, February, March would have been liquidated and into April now.
And they've even said, liquidated or not, you're going to get your refund. You're going to get a refund on everything you paid IEEPA on. So don't even worry about all of that. Just, go ahead and submit the ones you want. But again, I do want to caution, if you plan to make changes to those entries, like if you have some post-summary corrections or some protests for a reason other than IEEPA that you wanted to file, you need to file those first, because once you file the IEEPA refund, you're not going to be able to go back and make changes. So just a little caution on that.
So the IEEPA refund request should be the last thing you do to that specific entry if there's any
Yep.
changes.
Exactly.
Okay, and again, communicate with your accounting department, do a report, keep up with things, like you said, keep up with your wins. And this would be a good win for your performance reviews and communicating to your upper management, whether it's a small company and the owner, or your board, or your C-levels and all that stuff, right?
That's right.
Wonderful. I'll tell you what, folks, this is one that you need to save this and pass this one around to, especially to your compliance department and or your accounting department, and maybe collaborate on this. Say, hey, listen to this podcast, and then let's get together and talk through this strategically. What do we need to do? Hey, it may be even a case where I don't have the savviness and I have a lot of entries here. Is there somebody from the IT or somebody in one of the departments that is an Excel expert? Ask for help. People that join in on it share the win on that.
There you go.
So, Bonnie, thank you. I tell you, it's always a pleasure. You just, a wealth of information. You break things down, and I appreciate that. And Lalo,
Of course.
man, I tell you, man, you always book the greatest people for our show.
Thank you. Yeah, it's real easy when you know someone like Bonnie. So
Gosh,
I love it.
guys.
And Bonnie will be appearing at the next. No, I'm kidding.
At the
Right,
ICPA
exactly. Showtime
at the
at the Apollo.
ICPA in Canada in June.
Yeah,
I
there
will,
you go.
yes. ICPA
Yeah.
Canada in June. I'll be talking about U.S. Updates under President Trump and some duty mitigation strategies. And I'll be there to, say hello, give you a handshake or a hug, whatever you want.
Take selfies, sign autographs, whatever. I tell you what, this has been great. And again, I'm going to put in, without shame or on this, is a plug for Lalo's company, the Global Training Center. Listen, you want to become proficient on certain things or help your staff become proficient so you can be into a more advanced type item, which this really, as simple as the process is, it's an advanced item here or subject that we've been talking about. Get hold of the Global Training Center website, look at the courses for your staff or yourself, and literally sign up. It is a great, great company to do business with.
Well, thank you.
Agreed.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
folks, have a great day. Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Lalo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See y'all later.
Yes.